called quiet.
I'm often asked what's the most compelling evidence. From my perspective and expertise as a student of human and primate locomotion, it's the footprint evidence that drew me in. And likewise, many of my scientific predecessors, Dr. Grover Krantz, Dr. John Napier, it was likewise the composite data set of the footprints that compelled them to take this matter seriously. Something, as Dr. Napier said, something is leaving footprints. And we should be able to distinguish between hoaxes and misidentifications and the real McCoy. I find that hoaxes are really few and far between. The Patterson-Gimlin film clearly stands as the most compelling photographic evidence that we have to date, even in this age of iPhones and digital cameras and so forth. It still has set the mark so high. And not only do we have the film, but we have a remarkable track record associated with it. The cast that Roger Patterson executed himself on the day of the filming, but also some number of days later, Bob Titmus, a researcher from Canada, came to the scene and made a series of 10 footprint casts that provided a remarkable record. If I just had the footprint evidence alone, I would be largely convinced of the credibility of this film, but having the image of the track maker combined with the tracks as an anatomist, as a functional morphologist, it is so compelling. I'm as convinced as I can be, short of having stood there on the sandbar on that afternoon and witnessed the event myself. This is a piece of evidence that stands up under remarkable rigor that couldn't have possibly anticipated the technologies that we are applying to it today, and also anticipated numerous aspects of what is now conventional wisdom in anthropology, which in the 1960s actually contradicted, cut across the grain of what was considered orthodoxy or the existing paradigms. That aspect in itself fascinates me. You know, you could allow Roger to have maybe guessed about one thing and gotten it right, just or simply by pure coincidence, but a half a dozen different items that line up perfectly with what we now envision an early bipedal hominin to look like. That's Patty. I mean, she epitomizes our current concepts of that stage of hominin evolution. And in that regard, it's a remarkable piece of evidence. So in 1967, the concepts of anthropology were rather different. And the human niche was seen to be rather exclusive. Evolution of the human lineage was seen as a single file march, one species being succeeded by another. We now have thrown that concept out the window as the discovery of hominins has really burgeoned. We have this remarkably bushy tree with multiple species coexisting across the landscape for millions of years. And in fact, many of these lineages have persisted until much more recently than ever suspected before. One of those could certainly be Sasquatch. Well, first of all, bear in mind, this is a creature that, by my estimate, was right around 7 feet tall and between 700 and 800 pounds in weight. It's a massive, muscular, powerful creature that really fears nothing in the woods. About that point, once they crossed the creek, Patty's behavior changed. And then her stride picked up pace, her arms began swinging. I mean, she was really kind of reaching as she was swinging. And even Bob commented at how rapidly this massive creature covered the ground and put distance between her and them. So I think her behavior was quite natural. It'd be easier to fill a female costume that would maybe only be about 7 feet tall. If even then, in 1967, you could find someone just off the street that was 7 feet tall and had the other bodily dimensions that Patty evidently exhibits. All of those things, I think, fall to the wayside from my perspective. The convergence of patties of consistency and continuity of the phenomenon, and the suggestion that you'd work around the challenge of finding an oversized human male subject by portraying a female falls to the wayside when you scrutinize the specifics of what would have to be a fursuit and someone to fill that fursuit, which is just virtually impossible, especially given the technologies available in 1967. So that's a convoluted description of what often is an off-the-cuff, sort of knee-jerk skeptical response, but I mean, it just shows. The answers to these questions are difficult to put into a single-sentence soundbite. These are complex questions that don't have simple answers, but yet they stand up under the scrutiny and specificity of a detailed analysis.